Hello, what's going on, guys? This is J Money here, and here I am bringing you another discussion video on the meta so far and what's to come. First off, I want to say this is not a Duel Links video. I'm just playing Duel Links while, having this discussion because if you're watching this, you probably know what all the cards are that I'm about to talk about, and you probably already know all the cards that you can use against the topic at hand, which is Pendulum Magicians. Now, Pendulum Magicians is clearly the undisputed dominant deck of the format right now. Until we get Circuit Break, then everything could be subjected to change. However, what I want to go into is, how exactly can we deal with this deck? Because this deck seems very, very difficult to deal with early game and late game. Game 1 and Game 2 and Game 3. You would think that the obvious answers to the deck would be to side, things like Anti-Spell, Fairy Wind, other things such as Unending Nightmare, hell, maybe even Macrocosmos or some things like that matter, Pure Order, whatever. But the fact of the remains is, as long as we have Purple Poison Magician at 3, as long as we have Wavering Eyes at 3, which Wavering Eyes isn't as good in the Pendulum deck, but when it comes to sides, Wavering Eyes is probably the best card because it gets those purple poisons destroyed, it gets you a search, and on top of that, purple poison triggers to answer any potential side card you may have. But let's go into some examples. Let's say that you, the player who lost to the Pendulum Magician player, went first and sided anti-spells. Well, that'd be all fine and dandy, except either A, your opponent can either summon the purple poison and crash, or B, they have the trap card already in hand, and they use it to answer your anti-spell, and you're just back to the way it was. Well, Unending Nightmare seems to be the even better option because it can stop the trap card and it can stop them from completing your skills, so it doesn't stop them from setting the skills, which means since all the Pendulum Magician bullshit, since all of them get something when they're destroyed, then you find yourself having to double neg a lot just to keep their resources down because they're always going to get something. You're going to pay 1,000 to blow up, and then they're going to search with Double Iris or whatever, but you're not going to want to blow up Purple Poison at all. So once they put it in the scales, that's it. They can either summon a Pendulum Magician, like so, or you can, you get me. Or you can sit there and, shoot. I totally lost train of thought. Regardless, with Unending Nightmare, you're paying a lot of points just to stop. You're more or less hoping and praying that they only opened like a bunch of low skills and not enough high skills, because you're gonna be paying a lot. You're gonna end up having to hit the Star Pendulum graph, because otherwise, if you let it go and they play another skill and you blow it up, they just get another search and you have to pay essentially 1,000 more life points for the same result. So, and on top of that, if they have Wavering Eyes in hand, you're still fucked because its effect is only limited to once per chain, which is very, very important. Because that means that it's limited to how many times you can use it, which is only once in that chain. So if you're already activating, let's say you're activating that set on any Nightmare to respond to their impending threat, which is obviously going to be their completion of scales, and they chained Wavering Eyes, well, not only did you lose 1,000 life points for no reason, but Purple Poison also gets to trigger, dealing with your side deck. And that's where Wavering Eyes comes in. Wavering Eyes comes in clutch when it comes to all those side cards, just triggering off the Purple Poison at a moment's notice. Now, what other side cards can you use? You can use things like your own Wavering Eyes, if that works. Or you can the problem with Pendulum Magicians is you don't want to go first or you don't want to go second. You want to go first to put up a defense against a Pendulum Magician player, but, at the same time, now that Wavering Eyes is back, they're even more likely to break your stuff and pull your stuff apart little by little because of Wavering Eyes and triggering other things like Iris and Poisoned and, Black Fang and all that good stuff. And so that is the conundrum we're facing at the moment. And it's because of that that I believe that even with Circuit Break comes out and we get access to Double Helix, Pendulum Magician might still be the best deck because of how consistent it is. It's equally as consistent as Spirals. It's a little bit more resilient in the sense to where its boards can't be broken all that much. Or granted, yeah, Spirals can put up an impressive board, but again, we don't have Link Rebo, we don't have Tri-Gate Wizard, we don't have, there's one other key important piece that we are missing that actually makes it to where, the boards aren't just straight unbreakable. Really, when we get this stuff in the TCG, the one thing we have to worry about is, one, getting extra linked, which if you're getting extra linked, that gives off one thing right there, that they don't have the Decode Talker so you can target. Not only that, the dangerous thing that you probably have to only deal with, really, is that untargetable Sleeper that can blow up 2 cards, but they're not going to use Sleeper to blow up your freaking scales because you're just going to keep plussing, you're going to keep floating, and it's just a downward spiral from there. And that's what it's come down to. But, let's say they have the board of, they got the Resort on the board, so you can't target any of the spirals, but they got like 2 Firewalls, and they have like a Gaia Saber on the board, 2 Gaia Sabers, and they extra link you. And let's say I opened a typical hand of, Wisdom Eye, Double Iris, a Purple Poison, and a Wavering Eyes, and a 5th card could be random. Well, I can sit there and activate my Purple Poison and activate my Wisdom Eye, and at that point, they would have to either use Sleeper right then and there, which if they did, then theirs goes to Sleeper, and then Firewall's effect will be left. But you can sit there and just play defense. You can get your trap card and basically pick your opponent's board apart, because Spirals have an amazing turn 1, but if their board gets broken, their recovery isn't all that great. Because they expended a lot of their monsters and they're all resting in the graveyard, it makes it so their recovery isn't that good. But Pendulum Magicians, however, have an excellent recovery. Because not only are they taking stuff down with it, but first off, the Pendulum mechanic itself can continuously recover monsters. As long as Stargraph remains on the board, they're going to constantly have cards in hand. And it's just going to be a walk in the park for them. And, that's the thing about it. I mean, that's the unfortunate part is, yeah, Spirals don't have everything, but even, and it's because of the fact that they don't have everything that Pendulum Magicians might still be the most dominant deck. Because of the fact that games 2 and 3 aren't as easy when it comes to a Pendulum matchup as it would be against any other Pendulum deck, because Purple Poison's at 3, the Trap card, which is Time Pendulum Graph, is at 3, and Wavering Eyes is at 3 for the Disruption. The Disruption is very much there. So guys, that's really it all for the discussion. Let me know what you guys think about Pendulum Magicians. Is there something I'm not, thinking of that can actually shut the deck down? Because from the way I see it from the outside, it seems that the only way to really beat them is to slow them down, turn 1 just enough to where you can pretty much beat them in the next turn, more or less, which not a lot of decks can do. So I really want to get you guys' feedback on this one, because everybody is preparing for Spirals, but I'm still convinced that Pendulum Magician will still be the best deck. I don't know about you, but just based on how resilient it is and the fact that we don't have everything, just makes me a believer in the Pendulum Magician deck in general. And that's what's scary about it, because it's at full power and pendulums can do lots of amazing things. So thank you guys for watching. Again, I do apologize for being absent for a few days, but this is only because I've been trying to think of, if there is a way, thinking of, ways we can actually counter this deck. And I've spent lots of time thinking about it, and I really haven't come up with anything, which is scary. So thank you guys again. This is J Money, and I'm signing out.